think I am live here. I want to uh, test my audio, make sure that's working. It shows me live, and I think I have audio, but we're gonna confirm for sure. And once I confirm, I'm going to share it out to Twitter and Facebook, and then we're going to get started. So let me do this. Do this. Let's see. Yep. All right, cool. All right. So let's share here. Let's share here. And as soon as these finish posting, we'll be able to get started. All right, so that one's done. This one's uploading. Let's go back home. Everything slows way down once I start streaming. I'm noticing that. That is fine, though. That's why I think I'm going to need a second computer to do this. But that's for a later date. For now, post is me. And I think we are about ready to go, yeah? Let's see. All right, so there's that. I know my stream is working. Let's make sure chat is working. Log in, say hi is me. And there we go. All right, cool. So that works. That works. We're posted there. We're posted here, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, this is going to be a real cluster at the beginning, guys, just because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So just bear with me. All right, cool. Yeah, so it's posted on Twitter. It's posted on Facebook. And I think we're good. All right, so welcome to the inaugural live stream of Around the World Sports. My name, you can see right here, my name is Aaron Shellen, and Around the World Sports is a kind of my baby. It's something that I started, I guess about a year and a half, about 2 years ago now, when I was at the Illinois Media School. It started as a radio show that I did initially by myself, and then I was with Rhonda King, the original NFL brat, is what she calls herself. Rhonda will be joining me at some point. Rhonda is just a fountain of football knowledge, and she'll be joining me at some point over the next couple of weeks. For a while, it was just Rhonda and myself, and then we were joined by Felix Garcia, El Gato, we call him. Felix is my boy. He's an expert in the world of WWE and WWF wrestling. So that was always a fun time to talk to him about that. AJ Scalzitti, AJ, the football guy as well, really knows his stuff. So eventually it turned into a show with four of us. And we did that for about a year, I think. Is that right? I don't know. And it's somewhere between 9 months to a year. And then it turned into a short-lived, I guess, half-hour show that was hosted at the Illinois Media School. And I don't know what to do with my eyes. So I'm going to look at the camera. I'm going to look at the screen. I'm going to look at chat. I don't know what to do with my eyes. So I'm going to just sort of figure it out. So we did that as a radio show first for about 9 months, weekly show, 2 hours every Monday. I had a lot of fun. We did, like I said, a short-lived TV thing, which was really hard because it was just four of us. And then it's just sort of become my thing. It's my handle on Twitter. I've got the Facebook page for it. And it's really what I want to kind of turn this into. I want it to be more of a global sports show. I'm not keen on, I don't know. I local sports stations have never really done it for me. I grew up in Boston. I'm a born and raised New Englander. I live just outside Chicago right now. So I've experienced two major markets, and the local sports talk shows they can be rough to listen to sometimes. There are some good ones. Absolutely. There's some people here in Chicago that I enjoy listening to. There were people in Boston that I enjoyed listening to. But for the most part, I wasn't crazy about, the topics and the way that the shows were laid out. So if I'm going to do a show, I want it to be more global. There may be, it might be slanted more towards Boston or Chicago, just because that's, kind of what I'm dated with. Obviously I know more about Boston sports than I do anything else. So that might be skewed that way a tad. But I want to make it as general as possible. And I want to talk about what's going on in the sports world, not what's going on in the world of Chicago sports or Boston sports or whatever. So that's kind of the ultimate goal. Some things that I have on tap right off the bat. So today we are going to open, I don't know how many I have here. It's about however many this is. Baseball cards from the Ted Williams the Ted Williams Card Collection Company. These cards are from 1993. I found them in just some old stuff of mine as I was going through some collections of stuff. So that's going to be today. We're going to go through that. Today we're going to talk about what we miss about sports. And I'm not talking about, I miss the Bruins, or I miss LeBron James, or I miss whatever. I'm talking more individual moments, or I guess feelings that you have about sports and what you miss. For example, I was thinking about this yesterday. And for me, the one thing that I miss most about sports, just in general, is that feeling when I wake up in the morning knowing that my team has a game that night. And I know that no matter how bad my day is, that I'll be able to end it by watching the Bruins or the Celtics or the Patriots or the Red Sox or whatever. And that will make the day for me more tolerable. Even if I have an absolutely garbage day, it'll end on a positive note. And that's probably the one thing, man, my hair is a mess. I'll take my hat off here at some point. But when you have naturally curly hair and you can't go out and get a haircut, things are rough. But yeah, it's that's what I miss the most about sports. Is just that feeling I had when I woke up, knowing that I would be able to watch my team at the end of the day, and I miss that. There are obviously individual players I miss and personalities and things like that, but that's probably the single biggest thing that I miss. So, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about individual moments. What your favorite individual moments are in sports, and really talking about the Blackhawks winning the cup in 2010. What was it? What individual moment from that 2010 run as a Blackhawks fan did you love? Did you enjoy? So please let me know. I mean, I assume the chat box is working. I tested it on my other feed here and it seems to be working okay. But yeah, I don't want to, I'll talk to myself for 2 hours. I got no problem with that, but would much rather talk to you guys. So we're going to start with the baseball cards. We're going to pull up, or I guess I'm going to pull up. So let me read this to you. So this is the profile of this set. The 1993 Ted Williams Company baseball set consists of 96 base cards of some of the game's great players and 7 subsets of baseball's greats, numbering 1,609 total cards. Each card features a photograph of the player against a second larger B&W Go with the player's name printed across the bottom and Ted Williams Company logo at the upper right corner. Each subset can also be found next to the player's name in various designs, including foil. The backs show the card's number, the player's name and position, followed by his list of teams and a short biography or an unknown nugget about the player's career, and the MLB and Cooperstown collection logos at the bottom. The subsets include the Negro Leagues, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Ted's Greatest Hitters, Barrier Breakers, Going North, major leaguers from the 1940s to 70s pictured as minor leaguers, and 2 5-card subsets of All-Star Juan Gonzalez. So Juan Gon. Hopefully we can get some Juan Gon cards in here, and Jeff Bagwell. The cards were distributed with 2 die-cut cards or team logo pogs. The set is anchored by Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, and of course, Juan Gonzalez. So this is a collection that I was given by my father probably gave it to me back in the, so this is from 93, like I said. So in 93, I was 17. So yeah, I got these cards when I was somewhere between 16 and 18 years old. So we're going to open them and we're going to see what we get. And I've got Baseball Reference up here. So we'll take a look at some of the players' stats and see what we can learn about some of these people. So let's, and I'm not able, so it says I have 5 people in here, but when I pull up participants, it just shows me. So I don't know. So if you're in the chat, say hi, because I can't see who's actually here, I guess. So let's open this up and see what the first pack says. All right. And let's see if we get any nuggets about anybody that we don't know. So our first card is Jim Lonborg. So very, I guess, fitting that we get a Red Sox with the first card. Let's see. For one shining season, Jim Lonborg was the best pitcher in baseball. That year was 1967 when the Red Sox won the American League. And very nearly took the World Series as well. Lonborg won the second and fifth games of the 67 World Series, but had his career path altered by a broken leg suffered that offseason. So, yeah, 1967, he was 22-9 with a 3.16 ERA. So this card it looks like it shows the player's best seasons because it goes from 67 right to 72 and then 74, 76, and 77. So he was 22-9 with a 3.16 ERA in 1967, pitched 273 innings, struck out 246. So, 1967 Red Sox, obviously the impossible dream team, lost to the Cardinals in 7 games. Bob Gibson was a monster in that series, if I remember correctly. I believe he pitched. Let's take a look. I'm going to do that right away. 1967 World Series. I think he threw 3 complete games. Let's take a look. Bob Gibson in the 1967 World Series was, let's see if I can find him. That's just batting. Here we go. Bob Gibson, 3-0 with a 1.00 ERA, 27 innings, 14 hits, 26 strikeouts. So he was fantastic in that series. All right, so that's card number 1, Jim Lonborg. Card number 2, Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan. These cards are kind of neat. I like them. I like the picture of him in the front and then kind of the background picture of him. I like that. Joe Morgan did things few other second basemen could. He hit cleanup, for instance, hit with power, drew walks, or drive-in runs. Morgan was the best offensive second baseman of his time and a solid defensive player. He helped lead the Reds to 5 division titles and 3 World Series. It doesn't say anything about his poor ability as a broadcaster, but regardless, so he's got some solid. So it actually says top 5 best seasons. So, Joe Morgan, 5'7", 160 pounds. He was little. Joe Morgan. Next, we have Cecil Cooper. On here is a Milwaukee Brewer, but also played for the Red Sox. Ooh, his name is Cecil Sylvester Cooper. So that's a lot of C's. Cecil Cooper came to the Brewers in a swap for George Scott. He proceeded to become the best RBI threat in Brewers history. His combination of power and average was a perfect fit in the Brewers lineup. His .352 average in 1980 trailed only George Brett's .390 mark. So, Cecil Cooper. He was underrated player. He had some pretty nice seasons. 1982, he had 321 or 32 home runs. That 1980 season, 352, 25 home runs, 122 RBIs. Yo, DY, what's up, man? How you doing, Daryl? Thanks for stopping in, man. I'm almost 19 minutes into this, and I'm 3 cards down. So at this rate, we'll be here for, I don't know, 4 years. No, we'll go through. We'll go through. Oh, what's this? These are the Pogs. This is showing the time. These are actually Pogs. So for those of you who are young enough to remember Pogs, we've got some baseball Pogs here, and one is the Harlem Stars, and the other one it's Indianapolis. I don't know what the Indianapolis Negro League team was. Let's see what we can find out. I think weren't they the Clowns? Indianapolis Negro League. So Daryl, question for you. While I got you here, I'm going to put you on the spot. So one of the things I'm talking about today while we open up the cards are what do you miss about sports? Not specifically I miss the Cubs, or I miss the White Sox, or I miss the Bears, or I miss whatever. But what is it about sports that you miss right now? So while I look this up, let me know. Yeah, so the Indianapolis Clowns, but this isn't a Clowns logo. Oh, here it is, the Indianapolis ABCs. Let's see what we can see about the Indianapolis ABCs. They were a charter member of the Negro League. They claimed the Western Championship of Black Baseball in 1915 and 16. Among their best players were Oscar Charleston, Biz Mackey, and Ben Taylor. So there you go. Indianapolis ABCs and the Harlem Stars. So I got some Pogs, and we're going back to the 90s. So again, this is the inaugural live stream of Around the World Sports. I know it's hey, yo, what's up, bro? Rhonda King, ladies and gentlemen, the original NFL brat, has dropped in to say hi as well. I mentioned Rhonda in my intro. Rhonda is a fountain of football knowledge, and I look forward to having her on the show with me. Rhonda has been in the football world literally her entire life. So if you look up the NFL brat, Rhonda and Daryl, both you guys give yourselves a shout out here. Your Twitter handles, so anybody who watches this now or watches later can follow. Daryl is a huge sports guy. Has his own live show that he does with Steve Muehlhausen, where they talk about the fight game, boxing, MMA, WWE. Very talented, very skilled young man at Walkway Fight. And I want to have both of these guys on because, again, I don't want this to be just about how are the Cubs doing this year, or, I want it to be more general, where we have topics that we discuss. And, when I have Rhonda on, we'll talk football. When we have Daryl on, we'll talk the fight game. So let's keep going here. So Rhonda, throw your Twitter handle into chat as well, so that people can check you out. So here we go. Here is our first. What is this? This is we got a Juan Gonzalez card, guys. One of the special Juan Gonzalez cards right out of the chute. And this is interesting. It actually has a story, and I'll read this. It has a story about Juan Gonzalez. Juan Gonzalez was the youngest player in AA when he was sent to the Texas League Tulsa Drillers after spring training 1989. After an offseason of winter ball and weightlifting, Gonzalez was ready. He didn't disappoint and had his first big power year, 21 home runs and 85 RBIs. Texas thought he deserved a taste of major league life. His September call-up didn't result in much, a 150 average and no homers, but it spurred him to a 21 home run, 101 RBI season at AAA the next year, and then another call-up, this time with better results. The next year, Gonzalez was in Texas to stay. At the tender age of 21, he knocked in 101 runs, and that was just the beginning. So Juan Gon was a solid player for a number of years, but he also was in that was in that world of, did he do it cleanly? Did he do it legit? And there are some doubts. So Juan Gonzalez. What else we got? Who's next? Robin Roberts, who's a pitcher with the Phillies back in the 50s and 60s, right? Not just 50s, I guess. Robin Roberts had good fortune to have great control of a fastball that got past hitters in a hurry. However, he had the misfortune to play for the Phillies. In 14 years in Philadelphia, Roberts made it to only one series with the 1950 Whiz Kids. He was the most consistently excellent right-hander of the 50s. And these are some pretty great numbers. 1952, he was 28-7, 23-14 and 55, 23-15 and 54. ERAs consistently around 3. Robin Roberts was a horse back in the 50s. These are kind of neat cards. I like them. Next is Willie Mays. This is one of those going north cards. I guess this is the. Oh, okay. I get it. Took a while, but going north talks about their start in the major leagues, as in call ups, going north, et cetera, et cetera. So Rhonda, I asked Daryl. So Daryl, he misses watching Sunday night baseball with the old man and arguing about all things sports. Yeah, and those are the things that I really want to talk about today. The baseball cards are just sort of a background in case I don't have anybody here and I have to talk to myself. Yeah, it's this is what I want to talk about. Rhonda, what do you miss about sports? Not I miss watching Ohio State football. But what about Ohio State football do you miss? Or what about sports individually do you miss? For me, and I mentioned this at the beginning, but I will probably say this a few times. So for me, Willie Mays? That's pretty cool. So for me, what I miss is that feeling when I would wake up in the morning knowing that one of my teams had a game that night. And no matter how bad my day got, I knew that at 6:00, I would be able to plant myself on the couch and watch the Bruins or watch the Red Sox. Or if it was a Sunday, I knew that for 3 hours on a Sunday, I would be distracted by watching the Patriots and the other stuff wouldn't matter. So for me, that's what I miss. I miss just knowing that I had that buffer at the end of my day to help me relax, unwind, get over a bad day, just something to look forward to. And that's what I miss. So Rhonda, what do you miss? What do you miss about the sports life and the sports world right now? So while Rhonda's thinking about that, let's read about Willie Mays. It says Willie Mays was lucky. That's debatable. The color barrier fell just as he began his stint with the Negro League's Birmingham Black Barons. He signed with the Giants at 18. And, the Red Sox had an opportunity to sign Willie Mays, and their owner at the time, who was a notorious racist, made the decision not to. But Willie Mays could very easily have been a Red Sox. He was offered up to the team, and they turned him down. So they sent him to Trenton. In half a season, he hit .353. From there, it was on to Minneapolis, AAA. Willie was told he wouldn't stay with the Millers long, and he didn't. He hit .477 with the Millers, drove in 38, and scored 30 times. Everything that was remotely catchable in center field, he tracked down and caught. The Millers won 21 games in April. Willie was responsible for many of those victories, but by mid-May, the Giants decided they couldn't wait any longer. Mays got his call-up, and his minor league days were over. One of the greatest players in Major League Baseball history right here. Top 3, if you ask me. In some order, it's I think it's Ruth, Williams, and Mays. Those are my top 3 in some order. Probably Ruth, Mays, Williams, probably in that order for me. So let's move on to the next one. What do we got here? Tony Oliva. Tony Oliva, very underrated. He's also on deck when Bobby Thompson hit the shot heard around the world. Yeah, I mean, if you're pitching to Bobby Thompson in the World Series and you have Willie Mays on deck, what are you going to do, right? I mean, you're going to pitch to Bobby Thompson, and Thompson wasn't any slouch himself. He was a really. In fact, I'm going to pull up. Like I said, I've got Baseball Reference up here just so I can pull players' names up and stuff as we talk about them. Yeah, Bobby Thompson hit 264 home runs, had 18 hits in his career. The shot heard around the world that season. He hit 24 home. It was 51, right? Was the shot heard around the world? He hit 32 home runs that season. So what are you going to do? You're going to pitch to Bobby Thompson, or you're going to pitch to Willie Mays? And it was just a perfect storm. Yeah, October 3rd, 1951. Thank you, Fred, and thank you for joining us, Fred. I appreciate it. I mean, if you've got the option, you're going to pitch to Thompson, and he burned him. So, Fred, one of the other things we're talking about, we're going through our deck. I don't know how long ago you joined us, but one of the things we're talking about, you can see Rhonda put it in chat there. Rhonda misses the getaway from everyday drama. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my wife about this a few weeks back, and anytime there is, I can call you Matt. Gotcha. All right. So I was talking to my wife about this, and anytime there's a global issue or a national emergency or something of that nature, we always have sports to fall back on, right? After 9/11, one of the most, I guess, drilled in memories is the 2000 Series, which took place, just a few days after 9/11 went down. And we used sports as a release. We used sports to help us deal with what was going on in the world. And we don't have that now. So what do we do? What do we have to lean back on? And for me, it was do this. It was put this together and find an outlet for myself to discuss sports. And that's just not something we have anymore. So until COVID-19, you could depend on sports, but the draft didn't disappoint. The draft was phenomenal, Rhonda. I wish Roger Goodell hadn't done Roger Goodell was so fake and ridiculous in his, when they would cut to him to get the crowd behind him cheering and, things like that. But I don't like, obviously as a Patriots fan, I don't like Roger Goodell. But yeah, I thought the draft was fantastic. I thought they did a really, really good job. Exception. I found the constant discussion of the things that people overcame leading up to the draft or throughout their life. I found that to be almost forced because they were looking for horrible things that happened to people, during their lives. This person's mom died, or this person's sister had cancer, or, that to me was, I think it's important to learn about people, but it almost seemed like they were looking for ways to look for stories. And Rhonda, I don't know if you've put two and two together, but Fred is my friend Matt from Massachusetts, or from New Hampshire, who would watch our show when we were doing the radio show. So, my oldest friend in the world. I've known Matt since we were, 4, 5. Yeah, sports, it does bond us. There are, I'll use you and me as an example. Would we have really become as close as we are without sports? We both went to the Illinois Media School at the same time. We both have a passion for sports, and that was our connection. And sports brings people together from all walks of life and from all different worlds. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Sports brings us together. Fred Stamps was a CFL star, Stratomatic type games, and a ton of old radio broadcasts. Yeah, if you're going to listen to somebody, man, Vin Scully is the guy to listen to, right? I watched the Kirk Gibson run a couple weeks back just to listen to Vin Scully's call of it. I can't believe what I just saw. Yeah, he's, if you're going to listen to somebody, Vin Scully's the guy to listen to. Yeah, socially awkward is a good way to put it. And I think that describes Roger Goodell to a T. He's very socially awkward. He's a businessman. He's not, if he's up on stage, he's not the primary focus. It's the player he's shaking hands with. It's the player he's giving the hat to, things like that. But when they would keep cutting to his house, I assume that was his house. When they kept cutting to his house, you could just see that he has to be the center of attention. He's not comfortable doing it. So, Tony Oliva. We were on Tony Oliva. We got sidetracked. Let's look at Tony Oliva. Born Pedro Oliva Lopez, with 2 healthy knees, Tony Oliva would have been a Hall of Famer. No contest. Yeah, Tony Oliva is probably one of my favorite baseball players from the 70s. Completely underrated outfielder for the Twins. With his damaged knees, Oliva still managed to win 3 batting crowns and post near Cooperstown numbers. Oliva, Harmon Killebrew, and Rod Carew led the Minnesota attack through the late 60s and early 70s. Yeah, Tony Oliva was a fantastic hitter. Yeah, Tony Oliva. So let's move on. So Matt, what do you miss about sports? You know, I mean, you and I have we've been watching sports together as long as I can remember. What do you miss about sports? You know, what feeling, what individual moment do you miss about sports? Rod Carew said Oliva would limp all around the hotel looking for ice for his knees. Yeah, I mean, you wonder, brings up an interesting point. You know, you wonder what type of career some of these players would have had if they were dealing with today's medical advances. You know, let's ignore Tommy John surgery. You know, if Tommy John surgery was a thing back in the 50s and 60s, how much longer does Sandy Koufax pitch? You know, he retired after the 1966 season. Does Koufax get another 5-6 years in if Tommy John surgery is a thing? You know, the medical advances we've made have allowed some of these players to play into their late 30s and in some cases early 40s with very little drop off in performance. You know, back in the day, by the time you were 34, 35, your career was over. You know, there weren't many players that played beyond that. So you just have to wonder if the medical advances and the dietary advances, if those, you know, Mickey Mantle was notorious for smoking and drinking. You know, if Mickey had, you know, cut back on the cigarettes and not drank as much whiskey, does he hit 800 home runs? I mean, it's a possibility. You just don't know. You miss the storylines. Sports always be, yeah. You know, it's like I said. I mean, no matter how bad of a day I had, if you know, I got home at the end of the day, or, you know, I work from home, but if I, you know, ended my work day, I knew at 6:00 that I was going to be able to put on MLB TV 162 times over the course of 5 months. And I was going to be able to watch the Red Sox. And that was going to be 3 hours where I was going to be able to just ignore whatever was going on or, you know, just involve myself in that. And that's really what I miss. So, yeah, I mean, I will say it allowed me to get my studio set up and kind of do this. So there is an outlet. I still have an outlet. I can talk to you guys about it. Matt, I talk sports for hours and hours and hours. But it's an outlet, you know, and it's something that we miss. All right. So here is who's next. Oh, this is Double X. This is Jimmy Fox. Yeah. So Jimmy, it just says Double X there. So Jimmy Fox, great player from the 20s and 30s for Philadelphia and Boston. In 2011, you listened to the Rays, Yankees at work, came home and then watched. Yeah, I remember. I mean, that was a terrible, terrible day if you're a Red Sox fan. But yeah, I mean, it gave you something, you know, to hold on to and something to attach. That was a bad day as a Red Sox fan, but that season couldn't have ended any other way. That 2011 Red Sox season was just an absolute train wreck at the end. And it ended the only way it could, which is getting knocked out, you know, at the last game of the year, a team that didn't like each other very much. So yeah, that was a bad day. So Jimmy Fox, I'm going to read what his card says. Jimmy Fox was the player Ted Williams had to measure up to when Williams first came to the Red Sox. The first day Ted Williams came to spring training with the big club, he recalls seeing Fox in the batting cage with all those muscles, hitting line drives. It sounded like gunfire, Williams went on to say. I truly admired Fox. He and I were a generation apart, but he was such a good-natured guy. He never badmouthed anybody, and what a hitter. All right, Rhonda, I'll be here. Love you too. So Jimmy Fox, yeah, Jimmy Fox is one of the all-time greats. I'm just pulling him up on Baseball Reference here so we can look at his numbers together. Jimmie Foxx, almost 94 WAR in his career, 534 home runs, 325 batting average, 428 on base percentage, 609 slugging. He had a career OPS of over 1,000. He was a monster for a long time. Came to the Red Sox in 1936 when he was 28 years old. He was incredible. Yeah, he was a fantastic baseball player. Finished his career with the Cubs. I didn't know that. Finished his career with the Cubs in 1942. Hit 205 with the Cubs at finished with Philadelphia at age 37, which I also didn't know. But again, you have the whole WAR thing. He played in 1942 with the Cubs, then missed 43 and 44, came back to the Cubs in 36, and then played with Philadelphia in 37. So you have to, at the age of 37 in 1945. So you have to wonder, again, I mean, he played till he was 37, but 1942 was a pretty bad season, and then he missed 2 full seasons. So you have to wonder what his career would have looked like if he had played those 2 full seasons and if he had the advances that we have today. What do we got next? Matty Alou, one of the Alou brothers in his Pittsburgh outfit. Matty Alou. Mateo Rojas Alou. Matty, brother of major leaguers Felipe and Jesus, was a fine contact hitter who starred for the Pirates after coming over from San Francisco before the 66 season. His 231 hit outburst in 1969 ranks 28th all time and was the most since Ducky Medwick's 237 hit campaign in 1937. Was Matty the best of the Alou brothers? I think he was. Or was Felipe? I don't know. He didn't hit for much power, only hit 31 home runs in his career. Was a career 307 hitter. So, Matty Alou. Who's next? Rogers Hornsby, one of the great baseball players of all time. So, Matt, earlier I thought Felipe had more power, but I wasn't sure if he was a better player. Wasn't entirely sure. So, my top 3 baseball players of all time: Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Ted Williams. That's what I got. Those are my top 3. What are yours? So, Rogers Hornsby. And I love that I've pulled up 2 cards from players back in the 20s and 30s, and both of them, well, I guess it makes sense since it's the Ted Williams card company. But Ted Williams here's what Ted Williams had to say about Rogers Hornsby, who helped coach Williams in Minneapolis. Thought Hornsby was great. I liked him because he talked to me, a kid of 19, and boy, I picked his brain for everything I could. Every day I'd stay after practice with Hornsby and hit. Hornsby was like any of the really great players I've known. He couldn't get enough of it. He was pushing 50, I guess, but we'd have line drive hitting contests, and he'd be right in there hitting one line drive after another. Rogers Hornsby, one of the great baseball players of all times, hit over 400 multiple times. Let's look up Rogers. Played from 1915 through 1937. Didn't have 3,000 hits, believe it or not. 2,930 hits at 301 career home runs, 358 lifetime batting average, 434 on base percentage, hit over 403 times. 1922, 1924, where he hit 424, which is just ridiculous to think. And he didn't win the MVP that year. 1924, he hit 424 and didn't win the MVP. Had to have been Ruth. Who won the MVP that year? Let's look. Wow, Dazzy Vance won the MVP in 1924. He was 28-6 with a 2.16 ERA. Rogers Hornsby finished second with a 12.2 WAR. So that's interesting. That's an interesting voting there. So Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, third is tough. Mays, Cobb, Frank Robinson. Really, Frank Robinson. You put Frank Robinson up there. How come? I could see arguments for Mays and Cobb and Mantle too, but why Frank Robinson? So let's take a look. Who's next? Jimmy Pearsall. Jimmy Pearsall, before I read his card, interesting fact about Jimmy Pearsall is he is actually buried in a cemetery here in my hometown of Wheaton, Illinois. So, yeah, Jimmy Pearsall. And it doesn't talk about his issues, his off the field issues, but Jimmy Pearsall had an issue with, he was bipolar. And there's a famous story about him climbing up the backstop. I don't know if it was during a game or before a game or after a game, but he climbed up the backstop while he was still playing. Jimmy Pearsall through much of the early 50s and 60s. I think Robinson, here we go. I think Robinson is the most underrated great player ever. He probably isn't top 3, but he did everything well. Yeah, I mean, I think he hit, did he hit over 600 home runs? I know he was either close to or just over 600 home runs. It's a very, very good defensive outfielder. Good contact hitter. Yeah, I mean, he was very, very good at everything. Let's see. Whether playing center or right, Pearsall got a better jump on the ball, made more spectacular catches, and threw more accurately than any other AL fly chaser. Pearsall was no slouch with the bat either. He was pretty reckless in the outfield. He would consistently run into walls, which is why his career was shorter than maybe it could have been. Yeah, he was pretty good with the bat, 280s, 290s, hit 10 to 20 home runs. He was pretty good with the bat, but he was known primarily for his defense and his mental issues. He is he's buried here in Wheaton. The last card in this pack it's Rogers Hornsby again, but this is his actual player card. Not all statistics are created equal, so it's hard to tell whether Rogers Hornsby really was the greatest right-hand hitter who ever lived. If he wasn't, he was awfully close. He won 7 batting titles, 6 in a row, and owns the highest single-season batting average of the modern era. He also hit for surprising power. I would say he's probably the greatest right-handed hitter of all time. There are probably some other options. I mean, you got to put Manny Ramirez up there, especially in modern day Mike Trout. But Rogers is up there. I mean, there probably weren't many hitters better than him, pure hitters better than him up through, at least through the 50s and 60s, at least. I mean, Mays was more, I don't know if Mays was a better hitter than Hornsby. He was probably a better overall player, but I don't know if he was a better hitter than Hornsby. All right, so we're going to take a break from those cards. I'm going to look at some of the other cards I have here. So this is kind of the next question. I want to know what if you collect or have collected baseball cards or football cards or basketball cards or any type of sporting cards, what is your most valuable card? This one is mine. It is a 1957 Topps Ted Williams card. According to eBay, it's worth anywhere between, I don't know, about 80 and 120 bucks. So, but it's Ted Williams and it's in good condition. And I mean, he had been in the league for almost 20 years at this point, but, yeah, 1957 Ted Williams. And then I have some fun ones, some fun old ones. So I bought a couple of years ago, my wife bought me just a box of random cards on the internet. And there were some interesting ones in there. So I got like this one, for example. This is an autographed Kerry Collins card. It's got his autograph on it, so I'll keep it, but I find this one pretty interesting. An autographed Kerry Collins out of Penn State. Rhonda would appreciate that, but I don't think she's here. I've got Manny Sanguillen from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a Sanguillen rookie card. Well, that's something. Manny Sanguillen was a decent catcher back for the Pirates in the 60s and 70s. And then the rest of these are they're just bad. So we'll start with probably the most famous racist baseball player in history, Dixie Walker. Dixie Walker was absolutely awful to Jackie Robinson, and that's what he's known for, is being a terrible person. So good on him. We've got Early Wynn, a Topps. What year is this? Doesn't have a year on it. 61. Is that what that means? Yeah. That's good. Or is that the number of the card? I don't think that's the number of the card. Yeah, that's the number of the card. I don't know what year this is, but it's an early win. Cleans. But this is towards the end of his career, so my dad did always call him late loss. That is the ultimate baseball dad joke. You're very, very, very correct. Bucky Harris. I've got some random old cards here. And Bob Shaw. There we go. Here's another card from this. This one's from the 60s as well. I have this Barry Sanders card. It's a holographic type card. So I got those. And then I have a David Ortiz rookie card from 1998. I don't know if it's his rookie card, but I don't know if his rookie card would have been the year before he came out, before he started playing, but this was after his rookie season with the Twins. The Big Poppy. Hang on to that. And then I have these. I don't even know really what these are. These are I don't know. It's Deion Sanders. It says profile. I read it as profile. It's two different words. I was trying to figure out what that meant. But Ortiz looks yeah, a little bit, but he was also what? He was 22 in that picture, 21, 22. I'm a lot bigger now than I was when I was 21 or 22. As a Yankee fan, you always love what? That's right. I forgot you were a Yankee fan. Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players that, for me, and this brings up a good question. So, who are is there a player from a team that you hate that you enjoyed watching? And for me, that was always Mariano Rivera. Obviously, I hate the Yankees, but watching Mariano pitch, knowing that he was going to throw two pitches, he's going to throw a fastball, he's going to throw a cutter, and 80% of the time he's going to throw a cutter, and everybody knew he was going to throw a cutter, and nobody could hit it. And I just love that. For me, that was just spectacular. He also had some fun with it after in 2005 when the Red Sox had their ring ceremony. They were playing the Yankees. And in the pregame, they were going through and they were introducing all of the Yankees players, and they got to Mariano Rivera, and he got a standing ovation because he blew the save in Game 5 or Game 4 of the ALCS, and they gave him a standing ovation for it, and he soaked it in, and he had fun with it, and and when you see players like that who have the ability to not take themselves seriously and understand that it's a game and have fun with it, I can get behind that. Which is why I never liked Jeter, never liked A-Rod. It always seemed forced to me with them. It always seemed like it was they were putting on a mask when they were becoming Derek Jeter or Alex Rodriguez. Mariano was who he was, and he had fun with it, and I respect that. So yeah, Mariano Rivera was probably my the only Yankee that I could honestly say that I enjoyed watching. So let's go ahead and move on to our second pack here. Oh, we're almost an hour into this. Time flies when you have people to talk to, right? I'm gonna have to open this with my teeth, and I don't want to do that. I look like an animal on stream here. All right. I have a screwdriver right here. All right, there you go. What about you, Matt? Any athletes from teams that you just don't like that you enjoyed watching? So let's look at the Pogs first. So our Pogs, we have the Philadelphia Stars and the Louisville Black Caps. I like that logo. Oops, where am I going? I like I like that logo. That's pretty cool. I like that. Looks kind of like the Detroit Red Wings logo. It's kind of neat. All right. So our first card. Ooh, I got the checklist, guys. It's the worst card in a deck of cards is the checklist, and here it is. All right. So who do we got first? Davey Johnson, more known for his managing chops than his, but he had a year that stands out if I remember correctly. He hit, I think it was played for his first year with the Braves. Does that sound right? It played for the Braves. He hit 40-something home runs. And he was never really known for his offense, but yeah. Yeah, that's it. 1973 at 43 home runs, yeah. The difference a park makes. Davey Johnson was an occasional power hitter who blossomed in 1973 with the Braves, clubbing an astonishing 43 home runs and becoming one of the 4 Braves to crack the 40 home run plateau. Who would have been the other ones? It would have been, so 1943, that would have been Aaron, that would have been Matthews, Davey Johnson, and who would have been the 4th one to hit 40 home runs for that team? Hank Aaron, Davidson, and Darrell Evans. Okay. I guess he would have been early in his career at that point, right? Couldn't have been more than in his second or third season. Those are just some weird things. You just, you hear, that's why I love baseball, right? It's all about the numbers. So you have this team that had 44 players with 40 home runs. You have those Braves teams from the 70s who had 4 20-game winners, just things that you don't see a whole lot of at this point. So what do we got? The next one is our first Barrier Breakers card. It is Jim Gilliam. And I like that card. That kind of looks neat. I don't want to get the reflection, but that's kind of neat. Jim Jr. Gilliam was 18 when he broke in with the Baltimore Elite Giants at that young age, and with only a little bit of ball playing experience, he probably would have had to have spent several years in the minors before coming up to the Dodgers to stay. In that sense, Gilliam's time spent in the Negro Leagues was beneficial. When he came up to the Dodgers in 1953, 2 years after his last game with the Elite Giants, his game disruptive speed and flashy defense was in place. The Dodgers were so far ahead of the curve when it came to this. When I was in college, and Fred, you might remember this. When I was in college, I did a paper on Roy Campanella and Don Newcomb because they both played for a minor league team in New Hampshire that was in the Dodgers system back in the day, because they were the second and third players after Jackie Robinson to break the color barrier. So I did a paper about what they dealt with in New Hampshire. Yeah, in Nashua, right. I did a paper about kind of what they dealt with and stuff. And the Giants were the Dodgers were so far ahead of the curve when it came to kind of tapping that resource, so to speak. Walter Alston was, what can you say about him other than he was, obviously he had the foresight to see where it was going and take advantage of it for his club. So who do we got? Bobby Mercer. Really? Bobby Mercer? He belongs in this? All right. No, Bobby Mercer. There's your first Yankee, Daryl. But he's way before your time. Bobby Mercer had the unenviable task of following in the footsteps of Mickey Mantle in the New York outfield. Mercer was never able to live up to the Mick, but he put together a fine career of his own, combining power with speed and a solid line drive stroke. 1971, yeah, 331, 25 home runs, 94 RBIs, 91 walks to 60 strikeouts. Yeah, he put together a couple of decent seasons, but I don't know if he belongs on this, but it's Bobby Mercer. It's all I have to say about him. Here's another Negro League card. This is Marlon Carter. So Marlon Pee Wee Carter played for the San Antonio Black Indians, the Monroe Monarchs, the Memphis Red Sox, the Cincinnati Tigers, the Baltimore Elite Giants, the Harrisburg Stars, the Chicago American Giants, and the Rochester Royals. For 19 seasons, Marlon Pee Wee Carter was one of the Negro League's most versatile and valuable infielders. Carter played on some of the best Negro League teams of the 30s and 40s. He teamed with Double Duty. I love the nicknames, man. Double Duty Radcliffe on the 1937 Cincinnati Tigers. Played with, and this, we need to get back to this. If your name's Bill, from now on, your nickname needs to be Wild. There aren't nearly enough Wild Bills out there. Wild Bill Wright on the 1939 Baltimore Elite Giants, and played with Willie Wells and Bubber Hyde on the 1940 Memphis Red Sox, a line drive hitter whose batting average was consistently around 300. Carter was named to the 42 East-West All-Star squad. We don't have enough cool nicknames anymore. We need better nicknames. Next up is, let's see, I just want to peek through this, just look and see what the rest of the people in here are. All right, we'll just start from the top. So very next is Steve Carlton. He had one of the craziest seasons in the world with a really bad team. Was that the 1972 Phillies where he won 27 games and the Phillies won like 58? My favorite nickname. My favorite nickname. I don't know. I like Mike Hargrove. The Human Rain Delay is a fun nickname. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to look into that. Maybe that's something I can talk about on the next stream. Mike Hargrove's nickname was good. And obviously all nicknames from the 20s and 30s were better than they are today. It just goes with, because today we just use the first letter of the first name, put a hyphen, and then add Rod or Mac, and you have a nickname. So, nicknames back, 80 or 90 years ago were far better than they were today. Yeah, so Steve Carlton went 27-10 with a 1.98 ERA in 1972. And the Phillies that year won, I think it was 58 games, 59 games, something like that. So Steve Carlton, I think he's top 3 in strikeouts. He might even be second. I think he's second behind Ryan, unless Randy Johnson passed him. I don't remember. But he's top 2 or top 3 in career strikeouts. Very good pitcher. Ken Holtzman. Ted Williams has picked some interesting players to throw into his elite names of players here. So this is interesting. So it has him in an A's jersey on the front, but every season they list on the back is with the Cardinals. A steady winner who found success everywhere he pitched, Ken Holtzman, anchors of 2 famous pitching rotations, the late 60s and the A's. Wait a second. In the they got this wrong. Ken Holtzman never pitched for the Cardinals. These seasons have all got to be, these are all Cubs seasons. In the Oakland A's of the early 70s, Ken pitched a one-hitter and was a very effective hitting pitcher before the advent of the DH. If you look, it says St. Louis. He pitched for the Cubs in the late 60s, not the Cardinals. I'm going to have to file a complaint. I got that one wrong. Next we have, it's a Ted Williams story. So this will be appropriate. When Ted Williams was in his first year of professional ball, a gangly 18-year-old playing in his hometown of San Diego, his mother walked through the stands soliciting donations for the Salvation Army. Williams hit .291 with 23 home runs, and the next season went to the Minneapolis Millers, which seems to be a common theme. Most of these players seem to go through Minneapolis. Of the American Association there in the cozy confines of Nicollet Park, 279 feet to right field. Williams led the league in homers, RBIs, and batting average. Williams also displayed his also well-known temper, smashing a water cooler with his fist and barely avoiding severing a nerve in his hand. His performance in Minneapolis was good enough for the Red Sox to bring him up the next season. Teddy Ballgame, greatest hitter to ever live. And I'll fight anybody who argues me. I'm kidding. I won't fight anybody. But so what do we got now? Lester Lockett, another Negro leaguer. Here's something you might not have known. Did you know that Ted Williams was not the only ball player to hit 400 in 1941? Lester Beckett of the Birmingham Black Barons hit 403 that year, good enough to win him the Negro League's batting title. Rocket's big year was just a string of successful seasons. In addition to his big 1941, he hit 411 in 1943, 386 in 1948, and 593 in 1942. Lockett played on the 48 All-Star team with future major leaguers Monte Irvin, Luke Easter, Minnie Minoso, and Junior Gilliam. Another Negro League star. So we bring both of these guys up together because they're similar ball players. Bert Campaneris and Larry Bowa, a couple of slick fielding, no-hit shortstops from the 60s and 70s. Campaneris with the A's, Bowa with the Phillies, I guess known for his time with the Phillies. Bert Campaneris, shortstop for the championship A's teams of the 70s, was another of the prototypical Louis Aparicio-style leadoff men of the era. Like Louis, he played great defense and stole bases, led the AL 6 times, stealing 30 or more 10 straight seasons, and finishing with 649 stolen bases overall. Hit 79 home runs in his career and hit 22 of them in 1970. Was 1970 an exceptionally good year for offense? I don't recall. I know 68 and 72 were pitchers' seasons, but Larry Bowa's steady play at short anchored more than a decade's worth of mostly successful Philly teams, including the 1980 World Champions. Known for his aggressive play, Bowa stole 318 bases in his career, despite lacking the blazing speed of many base-swiping contemporaries. Okay. The Gray Eagle, just Tris Speaker. Again, one of the great hitters of all times, one of the best outfielders ever. How did Tris Speaker get to be one of Ted Williams' favorite hitters, you might ask? Through power and consistency, Speaker played in the dead ball era where doubles and triples are a better measure of power than home runs. He led the league in doubles 8 times and consistently near the top in triples. 18 of 19 seasons, he hit better than 300. And the season he didn't, he hit 296. Twice he led the league in slugging percentage, and he did something else Williams couldn't do, leg out base hits. One more thing, Speaker played the early part of his career in Boston and was the Red Sox greatest outfielder until Ted. 1970 had that, so it was an offensive season. I know that they lowered the mound in 69 because of the pitching dominance in 68, but I wasn't sure that 70 was a significantly better offensive year. Let's look. 1970 batting leaders. Let's just look at some of the stats from 1970. That's not going to come up that way. All right. What else do we have? It's really weird because 71 and 72. Yeah, I knew 72 was considered a pitcher's year. 68 obviously is the all-time pitcher's year. That was the year Gibson had a 1.12 ERA, and Ted Yastrzemski won the AL batting title with a 300 batting average. So, it was. The Indians played in a small park in 70. All right, let's open up our third pack and see what we get. I'm still looking for that. There should be an autographed Juan Gonzalez card in one of these, and that's what I'm looking for. I want my Juan Gonzalez autographed card. Can never have too many of those. Hey, Pirate, how are you, man? Thanks for jumping in. I appreciate your support. So, all right. No, I don't like the. Well, I guess these are okay. These are kind of the logos of the Negro Leagues, or at least the MLB approved logos of the Negro Leagues. I was hoping for more like these. These were kind of cool. This was the first one I got, Matt. I don't think you saw that one, but that's the Indianapolis ABCs and the Harlem Stars. Anyway. Pirate, thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate it. Taking a break from watching our Irish friend to come over here and say hi. I appreciate it. I'm good. I'm good. I'm having a good time. I've had a couple people in. Most of them have been real life friends, and that's fine. We're just sitting here talking about sports and uh, primarily baseball. That's we're looking at baseball cards, so that's kind of where it's going. But yeah, just talking about sports in general. So first, this is an okay pack, I guess. Dawning of a Legacy, Jeff Bagwell. We'll get to him in a second. Yeah, none of these cards are like, I don't think any of these are worth anything. It's more of a special type pack, and I don't think baseball cards are worth anything. Period anymore. You only see one game of baseball in your life. You're not from America, right? Or are you? I can't. Right? I don't have any idea, but not that it matters. I guess baseball is a national sport, but yeah, it's obviously it's more popular in America and Japan, and it was a game with the Richmond Flying. Minor league baseball is great, man. And the minor league teams, and it's such you're Irish, and it's a shame that a lot of because of what's going on right now, a lot of these teams aren't going to be back next year. But minor league baseball is so much fun. They really go out of their way to cater to families. So if you've got kids or you want to experience a baseball game cheap, minor league baseball is the way to go. That's something we're going to talk about on my next stream. I'm going to be doing an interview with Sam Vibrock or Vibrock. I got to learn how to pronounce his name. He's going to kill me. But he was the assistant general manager of the DuPage Pistol Shrimp, which was a summer league baseball team that I did some work for last year. And assuming the season starts again this year, I'll be doing some work for him again this year. And even them, they would have 50 to 100 people at their games, but even they did just an outstanding job getting people involved and getting them engaged and getting them to come back. And that's really what it's all about is, you're not going to make a ton of money selling tickets. So you got to get people in and you got to get them to, buy the merchandise and keep coming back. And minor league baseball usually does a fantastic job at that. So, yeah, anyway, that's my rant about minor league baseball. So we got Bobby Grich coming up next. Bobby Grich, known for his time with the California Angels, second baseman. Bobby Grich was, okay. It was pretty fun. You got quite drunk. Well, that's the other thing you do at baseball games. You drink a whole lot. As long as you stop by the seventh inning, in most cases, you can drink as much as you want. Those 2 beer rules typically don't apply if you're good about it. So this says Bobby Grich was Ryan Sandberg with a lower batting average and no Wrigley Field to help his stats. That seems like a slight at Ryan Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg is one of the greatest second basemen of all time. I don't know that you can say the same about Bobby Grich. A great fielder and hitter, Grich developed excellent power late in his career. He held several all-time fielding marks for second baseman. He played on pennant winners in Baltimore and California. Bobby Grich was good, but I don't think comparing him to Ryan Sandberg is the way to go. Let's see. What do we got next? Lou Burdett, Atlanta Braves pitcher from the 50s and 60s. Solid starter with the Milwaukee Braves. Burdett's pinnacle came in the 1957 World Series against the Yankees. He joined a select group of pitchers to win 3 games in a single series, including the deciding Game 7. Burdett won 20 games twice and threw a no-hitter against the Phillies in 1960. I will, Matt. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining. Thanks for giving me somebody to talk to here. I will promote the next one. I don't know exactly when it's going to be. I'm going to try to do this every Saturday, at least for a little while. So what I might do is play my video and then go. I don't know. I got to think about it. I wanted to do this one because I wanted to see how it was going to work. And yeah, I thought I was going to get through all these decks or all these card packs today. And I still have this many. So it was good talking to you too. So we are talking about, so some of the other things that we've talked about so far today have been, obviously this has been kind of the underlying thing, talking about baseball and baseball history, but, Pirate, I don't know if you are a sports fan in general, whether it's American sports or any type of sport. But what is it about sports that you miss, and for me, I've mentioned this a couple of times. For me, it's the idea that no matter how bad of a day I had, that if one of my teams was playing at night, I knew I was going to have something to, a way to unwind at the end of my day, a way to kind of put the stress and negativity of my day behind me. And it would allow me to, to just sit and relax for a few hours and not have to stress about what's going on, in my personal life. I've got, a litter of children, and I've got a job and a family to support, and I've got a boss that I report to, and all the stress that goes along with it. And having sports there having sports there as a way to kind of put that aside. That's what I miss. Irish Gaelic League. What is GA? I'm going to look that up. What is GAA? Irish Gaelic League. Oh, it's football. Right? Is it football? Gaelic League. A bar in Michigan. I'm sure that's not it. I'm assuming it's soccer. I'm assuming. I don't have any idea. You're gonna have to tell me. But yeah, it's GA, the Irish. Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, sports was a way to, shut out the outside world for a little bit. And we all need that, and for some people it's sports, for other people it's yard work, for other people it's, I don't know, competitive chess or whatever, playing Sudoku. Everybody's got their own outlet. And for me, it was always sports, and it probably always will be. I don't live and die by it as much as I used to, but I still, it's still there as a release, and there is as something that I need to help me get through the difficult parts of my day and my week and my life. We all have them. And this is an opportunity for me to kind of bring myself back into it here a little bit. I haven't, I'm literally probably the only person in the state of Illinois who hasn't watched any of the Jordan documentary. I've been so separated from the sports world here over the last 8 weeks. And it's noticeable, I see how I feel. So doing this is going to allow me to get back into it a little bit, and I think really help me. So they have sort of there's an overriding body that oversees all of the sports in Ireland. Is that how it works? So you've got like one company that kind of runs all of the various sport leagues. Is that basically how it works? That's interesting. All right, let's move on. So this brings up something I was talking about earlier. So we've got Roy Campanella, who was a catcher for the Dodgers. He was the second player to break, or one of the, actually it was probably the biggest. Larry Doby was the second. All traditional games. Oh, that's really interesting. So there's one kind of governing body that oversees. So it's like the Olympic Committee. Like the U.S. Olympic Committee, for example, oversees all of the Olympic sports in the United States. They're obviously amateur sports, but they oversee all of it. So this oversees all of the professional teams. That's interesting. So Roy Campanella, it says, when you look at Roy Campanella's minor league record, it reads 1946 Nashua, which is what Matt and I were talking about earlier. I did a paper on his time spent in Nashua, Montreal 48, Montreal 47, St. Paul 48, but that was only a portion of his journey to the major leagues. That path began in the Negro Leagues, and the minor leagues were just a way station on the road to the majors for Campy. Pains were taken to have him play on northern teams. He was fairly well treated in the Eastern League, and Montreal was one of the best places an African American could play. Those fans were colorblind, and the crowds were raucous. Campanella responded in both places, hitting .290 with 13 home runs in Nashua and bashing out another 13 home runs in Montreal to go with a .273 average after just 35 games in St. Paul. Campy was ready for the big jump. By the summer of 1948, he was a Dodger. Soccer and rugby and now American football have their own things because we have American football starting there now. Oh, okay. So now that there are more sports, they're starting to split off into their own factions, which I guess makes sense. I mean, it's the more they have to pay attention to, the more spread thin they are. So there is no professional league for traditional games. They do it all voluntary, and it is illegal for them to be paid. So all of those sports are amateur. There are no professional. I mean, there are professional soccer teams in Ireland, right? There's got to be. Is there no professional Irish soccer league? That's interesting. I guess just here in America, because sports are just such an important thing. Yeah, and it's kind of the American-centric thought, I guess. But, if it's important in America, it's got to be important everywhere else. So is there no professional soccer league in Ireland? That's interesting. I did not know that. I'm just going to check Twitter and some of this other stuff to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Soccer and rugby are not classic. That's really neat. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. All right. So what is considered a traditional game then? I guess that brings up an interesting point. I would imagine that some of these players who play for some of these teams that are or play for some of these leagues that are considered traditional games, I would think that they would have to fight occasionally to be paid. Soccer and rugby are not classified as traditional games, so they can be paid. There are no. I mean, I guess there are just amateur sports here in the United States. Gaelic football. Gaelic traditional games are Gaelic football, hurling, and handball. Got it. Okay. Yeah, and I guess there are amateur sports here in the United States as well that people don't get paid for. But even the popular ones, like, you look at something like track and field, there's not like a track and field league, but the famous athletes, I would imagine, get paid somehow, whether through endorsements or sponsors or whatever. I guess I never really thought about that. There are sports that are strictly amateur, where there are no professional leagues and people do it for, like swimming and diving, for example. There are no professional swimming leagues. Even the top levels have regular jobs, even though they would say, that's got to be really weird, man. Like if you're a famous amateur athlete, you take someone like Michael Phelps, for example, the American swimmer. He doesn't have to work in an office because he's making millions and millions and millions of dollars off his sponsorships and off his sponsorships and stuff. So that'd be really weird to, like go into the office and have to work with Michael Phelps because, he's got to have a regular job because he's not making any money swimming. That's interesting. That's the way it used to be here in America. back before, we'll continue to talk about baseball, but before there was free agency in baseball, the players were all under what was called the reserve rule, where the because the owners basically decided the salary. The players were essentially indentured servants. They couldn't go play for another team. They couldn't quit their job and go play for another team. So they got paid whatever the owners wanted to pay them. So a lot of them had other jobs in the off season to make ends meet. And that's a great point, Pirate. It's you keep money out of it because people do it for passion and not money. The flip side of that is you have to wonder what the not necessarily the talent level, but what the entertainment level would be if you paid these players. Because if you paid these players to do this and this was their job year round, they would potentially stay in better shape. They would take better care of themselves. They would, they would make it their entire focus rather than saying, well, I have to work 40 hours this work. In America, you have to work 40 hours this week and I can't spend that time weightlifting or cardio training or getting in better shape for the upcoming season. I got to do my regular job. So, there's arguments to be made on both sides. If you have people who are doing it that aren't getting paid, yeah, they're truly doing it because they love the game. But would the quality of the game be better if you paid them because they could do it year round? It's an interesting question. Next, we have Dave Kingman. Kong was his nickname. The quintessential all-or-nothing power hitter, Dave Kingman, is the only player with more than 400 home runs who is not in the Hall. Well, this obviously isn't true now, but back in 1993, this was true. Only player with more than 400 home runs that isn't in the Hall of Fame. Kingman was a better hitter than his reputation suggests, a strong arm and a strong-armed outfielder. Besides, Kingman starred at USC. Now, Kingman was was one of those all-or-nothing Rob Deere type, high power, low average type guys. So you see a lot more of that now than you did 20 or 30 years ago, where you have sort of the three true outcomes now where batters are looking to either hit home runs, they're going to strike out, or they're going to walk. And that's really it. And it's turned baseball into a completely different game. There's not nearly as much strategy in the game now than there was, 20 years ago. Players, you send someone up there and, tell them to swing for the fences. Employers are allowed to give them paid time off to train. A lot of people are employed in the region they're playing for, so they do get that a lot. Well, that's interesting. Do the employers... Are the employers paid to employ these players? Because, you can't just, if you're an employer, you can't just give people time off and not expect your own business to suffer. Although I guess there are benefits of having a famous athlete working for you. You get that vision and you get you get people, you get that visibility for they don't. Okay. But I guess you get that visibility of having a famous athlete working for your business, which I think probably helps as well. So, that's really interesting to see how sports work in other countries. And I can't imagine, somebody like LeBron James having to take a job in the off season because he's not getting paid to play basketball. It just seems so bizarre to me. They can claim they can claim unemployment while playing as well, though. Many get good jobs. Yeah, that's true. They get the cushy office jobs where they don't really have to do a whole lot because of who they are. But that just seems so crazy to me here in the States that you have famous athletes who have to take a job to make ends meet because they don't get paid to do their work. That seems crazy. That seems absolutely crazy to me. All right. So next we're going to move on to Jeff Bagwell, who former Red Sox farmhand, included in one of the worst trades in the history of probably the second worst trade. You could say it's either the second or the third worst trade in Red Sox history. First is obviously Babe Ruth. The second trade could be either Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson, or you could say Sparky Lyle for Danny Cater. That one is equally bad because it was with the Yankees. Pirate, and they have to work all year round, just not in. So they have to work while their season is going on. That's crazy. So what happens if they get hurt? Somebody breaks an ankle or something, or, they work in an office and they break their typing hand. I mean, what do they just make public appearances at that point? That's weird. So Jeff Bagwell. So this is his moving up story. Jeff Bagwell's dream had come true. He was a Red Sox draft pick. That's right. He was from Connecticut. Jeff Bagwell's from Connecticut. And even greater thrills lay ahead in Boston's minor league system. His first season was spent mostly at Winter Haven of the Florida State League. Bagwell 308 and 69 games, earning a promotion to New Britain. The Eastern League has a reputation of being a pitcher's league, but Bagwell ripped 34 doubles, 7 triples, and 160 hits. He led the league in hits, total bases, and intentional walks. He lost the batting crown by a single point. Bagwell seemed to be well on his way to Boston, but the Red Sox were in a pennant race. They needed pitching and were willing to part with him to get it. He was dealt to Houston on August 31st, 1990 for Larry Anderson. Bagwell's dream of breaking in with the Red Sox was gone for good. So Jeff Bagwell could have been a Red Sox, ended up an Astro, and I think he's in the Hall of Fame now. Did he make the Hall of Fame? I'm going to look. Let's look. Baseball Reference. I want to go here. I think he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. He made the Hall of Fame in what year? I don't know. He got into the Hall of Fame on his 7th try. He was inducted in 2017. Okay. All right. So, yeah, he is in the Hall of Fame. We've been for about an hour and a half at this point. It's been going pretty good, I think, for my first stream. It's quality's not great. I'm going to obviously I need to learn to add things to it. Coming up over the next few episodes of Around the World Sports. I don't know if I'm going to be doing them as live streams or if they're going to be pre-recorded, but I've got a couple of interviews set up. The first is with Sam Vibrock, who was the former assistant general manager of the DuPage Pistol Shrimp. He is a consultant this year as he's moved on to other things, but he's still making himself available to the Shrimp as needed. Sound levels are great. Good. Thank you. That's the stuff I need to know. I mean, I'm literally, kind of doing this on the fly. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I'm stumbling along and I'm learning as I go. So I'll be talking to Sam sometime over the next week. I don't think I'm going to be doing that one live. Too many variables. I don't want to have to troubleshoot while I'm live. So that first one, I'll probably do a separate interview, talk about his time with the Shrimp, how he got involved with them. I'm also setting up a time to speak to Tom Geiger, who is the head coach of the junior varsity Notre Dame Fighting Dons hockey team. Notre Dame College Prep. It's a high school here in Illinois. My accent is not what you expected. I mean, we've talked about where I'm from. I'm from New England. I live in Chicago, but my accent's sort of a mishmash because I've been in Chicago now for over 20 years. So there's a little bit of New England accent. There's a little bit of Chicago accent. And from there, it's just sort of a mess. One of the interviews I hope to secure here over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure they'll do it. They're both great guys. I just have to ask him is I spent this past winter as the color commentator for the West Aurora boys basketball team. And the two gentlemen I worked with, Neil Ormond and Rick Albright, have 100 years of experience between them calling West Aurora games. Neil has been calling West games for 56 years, and Neil has been calling games for 56 years, and Rick has been calling games for 44 years. And they both have just hundreds of stories. and being able to work side by side with them this year. I heard a lot of them, but there are so many more that I want to just listen to, and so I would love to get Neil and Rick on here just to tell their stories and talk about their love of high school sports and what general. So that's another one I'm looking to get to. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to have a couple other people on. I want to have my friend and colleague Rhonda King on. Rhonda is just a treasure trove of football knowledge. She's been in football literally her entire life. Her father is a former AFL, NFL football player. So she's literally been in the football world her entire life. She knows a ton about the game. So I want to have her on with me. Daryl Rivera, who was on here earlier, is outside of being a Yankee fan, which I can forgive. He's a big wrestling, MMA, boxing guy. So I want to have him on to talk about that. So I got a lot of stuff lined up, just figuring out the easiest way to put it all together, the easiest way to have them on and have the show run smoothly. I don't know if that's going to be to post those interviews through, like, do the interviews and then post them, or if I want to have them live. And I don't know if having them live ton of sense right now, just because the viewer numbers are really light. I would hate to have somebody on and anybody here to ask. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I got a lot coming up, a lot going, a lot in the works, a lot planned. I just have to work on because right now I'm just streaming right through YouTube. You just click live stream and off I go. I'm not using OBS. I'm not using any sort of recording software. I know I probably should, but I don't have any idea what I need. So I'm going to kind of learn as I go. So let's run through the rest of this pack, and then we'll see where we stand. Because I'm gonna shut down here at about 2:00. So in about 20-25 minutes, I'm gonna end it. I figure 2 hours is more than enough. So Willie Mays. We already had a Willie Mays card, but we got another one. One of the greatest baseball players in the history of the game. Top 3 for me. About Willie Mays, Ted Williams had this to say. If Joe DiMaggio wasn't the best all-around player I ever saw, it was Willie Mays. He did some things nobody else did or could do. He ran like a deer. Boy, he had talent. Williams even mentioned Cooperstown induction speech in 1966. The other day, Willie Mays hit his 522nd home run. He has gone past me. He is pushing, and I say to him, go get him, Willie. So yeah, Willie Mays, one of the greatest baseball players ever. For me, he's right behind Babe Ruth. He could do it all. He's got 660 career home runs. But his most famous moment is the catch that he made in the World Series, the over the shoulder catch. So here we go. We got our first Cub, Ron Santo, third baseman for years and years and years with the Cubs. Ron Santo was full of surprises as a fielder. He was the National League's version of Brooks Robinson, leading the league in assists 7 straight years. As a hitter, Santo drove in 90 or more runs 10 times, led the league in walks 4 times, and is 4th on the all-time homer list amongst third basemen. It's probably not the case now, but again, these cards are from 1993, so things have changed. But yeah, Santo was a great third baseman, great hitter, great defensive third baseman. And he was a lifelong Cubby. Actually, I think he finished his career with the White Sox, didn't he? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Let's look. I think he finished with the Cubs or with the White Sox. Let's look. Let's go search. What are you doing? Oh, right there. Yeah, he played his last season with the White Sox in 1974. So he was a Chicago guy his entire career. Yeah, he was a very, very good third baseman. Next up is Joe Torre. Torre played for, I guess he was known for his, Milwaukee and St. Louis. At first, all Joe Torre had to do to make all Joe Torre had to do was make people forget his brother Frank. Okay, got it. After a couple great seasons with the Braves and Cardinals, Frank Torre was all but forgotten. Joe could hit for power and average as a manager. He's had success in Atlanta and St. Louis after starting his managerial career with the Mets. So this is before he won the World Series with the Yankees. So this doesn't even talk about any of that. But yeah, Torre was one of the greatest hitting catchers of his era in the 60s and 70s. He was a great power bat, hit for a high average. He was a very, very good catcher back in the day. Of course, he was a manager of the Yankees, so I could do without him, but whatever. Rocky Colavito, another great power bat from the 50s and 60s. And he was traded, one of the worst trades in Indians history. They traded him to the Tigers for Harvey Keene, which is just a terrible trade. Rocky's days is the most popular and surprisingly short-lived. In 1960, despite hitting 83 home runs the previous two seasons, he was traded to the Tigers for Harvey Keene. So Colavito home runs 35 that year, 47 the next, and 37 the year after he finished his career with 374 home runs. Rocky Colavito was a very, very good power hitter. Hit over 40 home runs multiple times, 3-4 times in his career. Next, we have Lou Boudreau, shortstop in the 40s for the Indians. Lou Boudreau went from being the star shortstop to the end. He was a manager at age 24. He was the player manager of the Indians. He was ordinary as manager, but something special on the field. High average gap hitter with great glove. He led the Indians to the World Series in 48, winning the AL MVP with a 355, 18 home run, 106 RBI season. Yeah, he was really good. Some of these walk to strikeout ratios are crazy. In 1948, he had 98 walks and only 9 strikeouts. The year before that, 67 walks and only 10 strikeouts. So somehow these guys managed to get the bat on the ball all the time. It's pretty impressive. 98 walks and 9 strikeouts. Was he one of those players who ended up walking more than he? Of course, he walked more than he struck out over his career. That's a stupid question. Yeah, 796 walks, 309 strikeouts. It's nuts. So thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. I was afraid that I was going to come in here and I was going to spend 2 hours talking to myself. The fact that I've had people in here pretty much the entire time has been a nice treat. Gives me other things to discuss other than just reading the back of baseball cards, which I don't mind doing. I mean, this is fun. I love baseball, so got no problem with it. This is probably the worst one in here so far. Bud Harrelson, middle infielder for the Mets. Bud Harrelson did his best work with the glove. Excuse me. He was a limited hitter with good resourcefulness, but his greatest value to any team was a scrappy defensive anchor and a fiery clubhouse leader. At the end of his playing career, Bud managed the Mets. I think Teddy was reaching a little bit here with this one. Bud Harrelson. All right, so we've got the Babe and the Kid. Babe Ruth, Ted Williams. And speaking of Babe Ruth, Ted Williams once said, "I think Babe Ruth has to be the greatest player of all time. He was the greatest slugger the game has seen or ever will see, but he was also a great pitcher. He had such magnetism about him. He was the guy with all the slugging marks. He dwarfed everybody during his day, and all the great players looked up in awe at Ruth. He was the guy they looked up to as the draw of as the game and the savior of it. His home run percentage still stands today. This puts him in a class by himself, even compared to DiMaggio." And one thing you see about Ted Williams is he was always talking about Ted Williams or talking about Joe DiMaggio and what a great player Joe DiMaggio was. The two of them New York and Boston, and always talk about which player was better. To me, Williams was a better hitter. DiMaggio was probably the better, maybe the better all-around player, was a better fielder for sure. But to me, Williams was the better hitter. All right, so let's do one more because I still have all of these. And I thought I was going to get through all these today. I don't know why. I guess I forget how fast time flies when it's Babe Ruth is the only name you know. Well, it's a good name to know. Yeah, he was the greatest, so it's a good name to know. But yeah, I forget how quickly time flies when I do this sort of thing. You have a layout of what you want to do and what you want to talk about. And unless you have it really broken down and it's separated by commercials and transitions and stuff, you just sit here and you talk. And I've been talking now for almost 2 hours, which, I don't hate doing. I like to talk. So works for me. All right. So let's take a look at our last pack here. So, okay. So more Pogs. So again, straight out of these are definitely from the 90s, as there are Pogs in here. So we got the New York Yankees and Lou Gehrig, Iron Horse. And so the first one we get is Ted Williams. It's card number 1 of the pack, which makes sense since this is his kit. So Ted is considered by many baseball experts to be the greatest hitter ever. He was the last hitter to hit 400 and finish his career with more than 500 home runs, despite losing 5 peak years to military service. And that's something that he's proud of. He was a decorated World War II and Korean War fighter pilot. Flew hundreds of missions during the wars and lost 5 full seasons. I think it was 43, 44, 45. And then what were the other seasons? It had to have been early 50s. Let's look. Well, Pirate, hopefully after today, you will have learned a little bit more about baseball. Yeah, he also lost almost all of 1952 and most of 1953. He only played 6 games in 1952, and then he played 37 games in 1953. So he missed almost 5 full seasons with military service. And I mean, if you extrapolate his numbers, 30 home runs a year for those 5 seasons and 180 hits. I mean, he's approaching 700 home runs and 3,000 hits. So, excuse me. Great hitter, great ball player, Teddy Williams. All right, what do we got next? I want to look at. There's a bunch of cards here, and I don't think I'm going to get to all of them. Let's talk about, I saw one in here. Where is it? Right here. Let's talk about Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench, great catcher for the Reds back in the 70s. Thought by many to be the greatest catcher to ever play the game. Greatest catchers to ever play the game. Johnny Bench, one of the greatest slugging catchers ever, was a key component of the Cincinnati's 1970 vintage Big Red Machine. At 22, Johnny took home the MVP award with a great power season, 45 home runs, 148 RBIs. Though slowed by injuries later on, he was still the dominant catcher of his day. Great catcher. So, yeah. So one of the other things that we've talked about here today has been what we miss about sports. And I'm a numbers guy. I'm not particularly good at math, but I love numbers. I love statistics more than anything else. So I used to spend my childhood looking at the back of baseball cards and trading baseball cards with people and things of that nature. But I miss, one of the things I miss about sports is I miss the numbers. I miss, sorry, my shirt is in the way. I'm wearing, by the way, this is a 2004 Red Sox road Johnny Damon jersey. For those of you that are curious, this is the Red Sox road jerseys. Johnny Damon. So this jersey's what, 15 years old now, 20 years old now, which isn't nearly the oldest jersey I have. I've got, I still have all of my Boston Bruins hockey sweaters from the early 90s. They still kind of fit me. They're a little bit snug these days, but they still fit me. Yeah, I miss the numbers. I miss talking about, we'll talk about this from a Bruins perspective. David Pastrnak was on pace to score 50 goals, was on pace to be the first Bruin to score 50 goals in a long time. Miss looking at that chase. I miss looking at, players that were approaching records, to stay Boston themed, watching Jason Tatum's development after the All-Star break this year, where he averaged almost 30 points a game and was one of the best players in the NBA. And I miss looking at those numbers and looking at the stat lines. And I used to, every day when I was a kid, I used to get even till now, when my father, who has since passed away, but my father, when he would come visit my kids, he didn't come to see me, he came to see his grandkids. But when he would come to see his grandkids, he would always bring me the Boston newspapers so that I could sit and I could read stories about the Boston teams, and I could look at the team stat. And obviously all this stuff is available online now, but there was something different about looking at it in a magazine or a newspaper or something like that. And I miss that. I miss being able to check that stuff out and look at those numbers. And I miss looking at stats, which is, I think, why I'm doing these gaming videos on YouTube as well, because it allows me to generate my own stats and my own numbers and kind of keeps it somewhat based in reality for me, even though it's a video game. You have a Celtic football jersey in my closet that was my uncle's. You think it's 40 something years old. Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm not nearly as fit as I used to be. When I graduated high school in 1994, which is right around when I bought some of these jerseys, I weighed 135 pounds. Soaking wet. Needless to say, I weigh quite a bit more than that now. You're right. There's a different feeling of stats on print. Absolutely. There absolutely is. I loved it was the Boston Globe, which was the paper in Boston that my dad would bring me. I used to love sitting there and looking at baseball box scores in the Boston Globe. There's something different about doing it there versus going on to ESPN and looking at box scores there. I remember the first fantasy baseball league I ever did was when I was in college. This had to have been 90, 96, 97, somewhere right in there. And I had to manage it through paper stats because there was no, internet to speak of back then, or internet that you could get readily. So I had to get Baseball Weekly, the magazine Baseball Weekly, and I had to go through and I had to add up all the stats. And it was I loved it. I loved sitting there and going through and looking at all the numbers and adding them all up. And I think that's, again, I just talked about this, but I think that's why I love playing simulation style sports games. I've always been a video game guy my entire life. I've loved video games, and my wife can probably vouch for that. She probably hates it, but she can vouch for it. But I don't play I don't play Madden. I don't play MLB The Show. I don't play the games. Like, my hand-eye coordination isn't what it used to be either. I play these games for the statistics. I would much rather coach a team and generate the stats and build the statistics and watch the stats. Like, one of the things that one of the people in chat was talking about earlier was a game called Stratomatic. It's a pen and paper dice sporting game. They have it online, but I would never play it online. If I were ever to play Stratomatic again, I would buy it. It's cards that you roll dice and you get your results and it generates stats. And I love that stuff. Always have, always will. I mean, I remember being a kid and just sitting in my bedroom, on a, Saturday afternoon or whatever, playing this game for hours on end. And I would just sit there by myself. And you could play with other people, and it was designed really to play with other people, I think. But, I played it by myself. And my friend who was in chat earlier used to, we used to go to each other's house on weekends, and we would just sit and we would just play these games constantly. And we did it to generate the statistics. There was no video. There was no, hand-eye coordination where you had to swing the bat or throw the football or whatever. It was all to generate the stats. And for me, I miss that. I miss, and it's why I love, just messing around. Like I've got Baseball Reference up here. I love messing around. It has a random function where you can click the random button and it'll bring up a random player or a random team or, and it just, you can mess around with it for hours and hours if you're a baseball fan. So, there's a lot to miss. There's a lot that, that we want back. But I'm of the mindset that the better we do this social distancing, the quicker we'll be able to get back to our sports, and it doesn't have to be, I don't care if I have to watch a baseball game with nobody in the stands. It doesn't make any difference to me. It's going to take some getting used to, because part of the joy you get of watching sports is kind of that feeling you get when the fans react, right? If you're watching a game on TV and somebody scores a goal, the fans go nuts, or somebody hits a home run and the crowd goes nuts. If they pipe in music or they pipe in stadium noise, that might help. So that's going to be a little weird, but I think if we just supposed to do and just keep away from each other for now, we can get back to it, and we can get back to doing what we love. Cause I'll tell you, I can't wait to go back and do games for the Pistol Shrimp again. I don't care that there's 50 people in the stands. I get to spend my summers on a baseball field, calling games, watching baseball, eating hot dogs and sitting in a press box, watching a baseball game, man. It's just such a good feeling. You'd rather no noise than canned laughter. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, it would be really weird to watch a sporting event with absolutely no noise other than the announcers. That would be really, really strange for me. I wouldn't mind piped in crowd noise, not necessarily laughter, but sort of that ambient, like just, kind of that noise. I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't wait to get back to it, and most of what I do is minor league, high school, Division III college stuff, but it's sports, man. And I get paid to do it, and I love it, and I cannot wait to get back to it. So, I think that's going to do it. I've been live for almost 2 hours now. So, I need to eat. I haven't eaten yet today, so I gotta go get some food in me. But the buzz of a live crowd, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just that you can duplicate that buzz without it actually being there, I think. And I can't wait to get back to it. I really can't. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. It's the maiden voyage, so to speak. I don't really have a schedule set yet. I'm thinking that it's going to be a Saturday thing, just because that makes the most sense for me when things get back to normal. I'll still have my weekends off, and I'll have time to do that. I might do some one-off stuff during the week right now while we're still. Pirate, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm sure I'll talk to you in other live streams soon. Thanks for hanging out. But yeah, I think I'll probably do some one-off stuff where, if I choose to do an interview and I don't do it live, I might post that to the YouTube page. But I'm going to try to do some of these streams here weekly, at a bare minimum, just until I get comfortable with it and I'm able to work the technology the way I want. So, thanks for watching. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.